Awesome. Okay, so this is a really, really exciting episode. These guys are here with us today, hanging out. I can't wait to introduce them. And let's go ahead and start our happy hour episode today, where we're going to be talking about controlling expenses. And not only are we going to be talking about expense cards, but we're also going to be talking about expense cards with credit lines. So they're super smart cards, and it's going to help us to be able to control some of our client spending and our internal firm spending. And Heather, you're a fan already, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, we use it in our firm and we love it. It's fantastic. It makes my life and my operations director's life so much easier because we can just delegate.
Ooh, we're going to be talking about that. I got some questions for you.
All right. Well, Heather, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name is Heather Satterley. I have a company called Satterley Training Consulting, where I focus on process automation and working with small to mid-sized businesses and accounting firms to help them streamline their internal processes. And then I also have Satterley Accounting Services, which is a accounting and tax firm in lovely Rhode Island, although we are completely virtual and we have team members in 5 different states. So yeah, so we're kind of feels like we're kind of doing it all. So.
Well, you're rocking it over there. That's awesome. We are Scott, and we're based out of Oklahoma, but again, we're all virtual. Funny thing is, though, a lot of our teammates have been from referrals from either other employees or from clients. And so although we are virtual, a lot of us are actually based out of the same state. So we had a retreat recently to be able to say, hey, even though we're in the same state, let's actually meet up. That was fun.
We're having a retreat too, Liz, right? So that's going to be exciting next month.
Yes, I can't wait. Do you want to share where?
Yeah, so we're going to Disney. Well, we're going to Orlando. And we're definitely going to go to Disney, I think, at least one day. But I think most of our time will be at Harry Potter World. We'll be doing happy hour stuff camped out in Harry Potter World.
I bought shoes, Heather. I bought shoes. I bought green metallic Vans that are Slytherin. Like, I can't wait. Like, I'm going to be rocking those things all over. In fact, I'm going to take them to scaling with me too.
I've got my wand back there. It's just waiting to be packed in my suitcase so I can go through Harry Potter World and do all that fun stuff. So we're going to have a lot of fun.
So we're going to be doing pictures. We're going to be updating photos. We're going to be doing a whole bunch of building and powwowing with Happy Hour. But it was fun to tell my kids, hey, kids, I'm going to Disney and Universal, and you're not. That was
awesome.
Yeah, my kids
I enjoyed that way more than that.
Yeah, my kids were like, what? You and Dad are going without me?
Yeah, we're not having that's fun. That's what we're doing. So Taylor, we have you with us. And so I'd like to be able to introduce you to everybody and to give you a moment to tell what you do at Divvy and how your role is helping people with understanding and using Divvy.
Thank you. Yeah, no, so I'm a semi-seasoned marketer. I actually just started at Divvy a few weeks ago. I came from a company here that's also a software as a service here in Utah. And my job is to, honestly, it's been making accounts payable people have big, massive headaches. That's been my experience so far, because I'm a spender. You know, I spend a lot of money trying to generate demand, create leads for the business. And so the nice thing about coming to Divvy has been seeing how much of a difference the product makes for those people who I've caused so much pain and harm to in the past. And so I'm trying to go back and get forgiveness from all those people from the past and trying to, expose them to what an awesome experience this is, right? So I'm a marketer. And so while I'm not going to be able to speak too much to the solution side of things today, I'm happy to add to, how people like me can make CPAs have some massive headaches and how we can help that.
Well, we're certainly glad that you're here. And I'm going to go ahead and say, Ryan, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself? I don't have a slide for you, so I'm just going to tell everybody that you are Ryan and you are also with Divvy, but you have a different role. You want to share that?
I do. So my job is to help our accounting and CPA and consulting partners. So the nice thing is I get to take care of basically all of those that take care of other people, their clients who they're concerned about. And so my job is to make their lives very easy, just like Taylor was talking about, because as someone who also travels and is a accounting nightmare as I'm swiping and paying for things and going to conferences and paying for the group, right? We want to make sure that our accounting partners are taken care of. And so things that I get to talk about is how we get to, toss softballs to the consulting group and those, because Divvy, has a lot of, really fun ideas that create more time, more availability, and a lot more flexibility for the accounting firms that are in the day-to-day weeds and the babysitting and all of that you have to do for your clients. So the kind of fun thing for me, I am a retired wakeboarder, even though I'm not very old. So I have since retired. After you get, the nosebleed, the eye bleed, and the ear bleed, I think that's everything else that should not bleed. So that's kind of a little bit about me.
That's awesome. Well, and
I have to just stop and give Ryan a testimonial, because Ryan worked with our firm when we implemented Divvy, and he was amazing. Like every step of the way, jumped on calls whenever we needed it. It was an amazing experience for us. So huge thank you to you, Ryan. And just to let everybody know, they mean it when they say they're going to have your back. They totally do.
Oh yeah, my cell phone number is out there for a reason. It's so people can use it and call it. And and if I look at my watch, it's because I'm answering someone's phone call from one of our partners. So thank you. Great to be here.
Well, that's funny, Heather, because I was going to say a very similar thing. Sometimes I feel like us in the industry are the worst at taking care of our own firms. And so Ryan and I have emailed back and forth because I move on. And so being able to say, hey, I need this, and getting us onboarded, you have really helped to drive that. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You bet. Appreciate that.
Yeah,
All
but
right.
I just one more last sentence, then I'll let it go. But you have skills of doing that, because you definitely kept things going, but you did it in a way that it wasn't like, oh, I got to get to that. It's like it felt really natural, and it got done, which was really cool. And that's hard to do. That's so hard to do. So
we have a special guest here today. Dan, we are very thankful that you're with us. Do you want to do a little brief intro about who you are and what you do?
Sure, I can talk. I don't love ever talking about myself. I don't know why, but I am the COO of Ignite Spot, and my job, I guess, is to focus heavily on the software tools and resources that our team uses and our clients use, and really trying to organize it as best as possible to make our customers and our team's lives easier. A part of that too, of course, is connecting with our partners that we work with as best as possible to help give them as much feedback as possible with it too. And so I really try to make myself as available on both sides of the line to be able to make sure that we're giving as much as we can to really help to make sure our customers know what they're supposed to be expecting, as well as our app partners know what our customers are needing, so that we can be able to make sure that that really the products are molding and moving the way that our customers are looking for, and that we can actually best move it towards that direction. But I absolutely love softwares and tools and systems and moving things around from that standpoint.
We're glad that you're with us. So thank
we
you
really
for bringing
are.
some insight today.
Thank you.
definitely. And you've been on a lot of councils. Just looking at your bio side, you've been on the Intuit's Accountant Council, the Payroll Council, Gusto's Council. You're a member of the Accounting Salon, which I am as well. Go Accounting Salon, and the Bill.com Accountant Council. And I love that. And I think that's really true. If I would say, I would challenge all of our, our viewers today, if you have not served on one of your app partners councils or given feedback, you should do that, because you can make an impact. Now, it's not even that you can make an impact, you will make an impact. And when you start to see that impact that you're making, it's actually kind of magical. So I would strongly encourage you to do that.
So true. I mean, any feedback you can give, they are always willing to take some sort of advice on what you can do to make the product better, because they really want to make the product better, not only for you, but for every customer that they work with. And the one piece of advice is they know sometimes their support's not always the greatest. So don't always lead with that, just as the heads up. But there always are things that they're looking for. And so that's the part that they really want to make sure that the products are developing and growing with, and anything you can do to help them, they really are looking for those. So
it's great feedback. It's nice to know that there's people out there who are giving advice, because all of us benefit from it. So I want to say a big thank you to our Champagne level sponsor of 2021, ADP. And so we've had several different episodes throughout the year where we've had ADP come on and talk to us about specific features and tool sets. And so we want to make sure that we say thank you for making Appy Hour possible this year. And drum roll, we also want to say thank you to Divvy for making this episode possible. You're going to be talking to us about expense cards, and so we are all eagerly awaiting. And I will just say, there is a toast that we are going to be having today, and I have already started because it's a really good drink. And I decided I was going to add an extra ingredients to it, which was my Cool Whip. So if you see me drinking it, it's because it's good. It's a fun one. So the conversation that we want to really start having is talking about, where are we whenever we're talking about accurate financial statements? And, the driver of that whole entire conversation is these transactions. Well, being able to have accurate transactions makes us feel really confident that we've got good financials. But that's where a lot of times in the books we struggle. So, I would say that, bookkeeping, if we want to call it, the data entry part is gone. And so a lot of these things are being fed in. But making sure that those transactions are accurate is now where our job is spent. Wouldn't you say you agree, Heather, that that's kind of the spot where, if we're going to go and look at our
100%.
financial statements? Yeah,
Absolutely. And the other thing that I would add here is, part of our job as the bookkeeper, the accounting professional, is to make sure that we have those source documents to back up the financials that we're presenting to our clients and to other parties. So that's also a challenge. We really struggle. I think I hate it when I don't have the exact statistic in my head, but I had heard, and maybe Liz, you'll know, because sometimes you have them in your head, the percentage of time, I think it's over 30% of the time that accountants spend is trying to get the information from our clients that we need to do our job. And it's whether it's getting, details about the transaction, or it's getting documentation to support a transaction, or even getting our clients to answer the phone sometimes, or an email. So having a system in place that makes it easy for them and gets us what we need is just so important.
I think
it's funny that you say that, because we've started creating these reoccurring templates to ask the same thing every month, every quarter, every year, because a lot of the times it's just the same stuff that we need to be able to request over and over. But that is a struggle.
Yeah.
I was just going to make the comment too. I mean, like you mentioned before, historically, we've always kind of had that framework. And I mean, I remember when I first started, the first customer experience I had was, it was 2 days after I started, a guy showed up, 21 bankers boxes, and dropped them off on the back door. And I had to sort through every single one of them to go through it. And I had hair when I started that job. And now Ryan and I have a lot in common with that situation.
I only had 15 boxes to go through.
See, he only had 15, and he wasn't bleeding out of his ear at the time. And so it was totally different experience. But that was the point. Like with that, now I love what you said, Liz. Like now everything's being automatically imported. And so I think a lot of the times, like mentally in our system, we just go, well, it's automatically imported. It's good.
Yeah.
Which is, it's complete, like we're blind to the reality sometimes of what's really happening with it. And And I will say too, some of the GL tools aren't even putting vendor names and half the stuff automatically into the system. And
Yeah,
so like,
that's
so
a big one.
most of the transactions are only halfway reported and halfway recorded, and there's not true backed up data. And so like, that's part of the reason why, like to your comment about like true, valid, confident, competent financial statements, are they really being created accurately with that information that we have from those bank feeds? And most of the time they're not, because there's not good source information just to supply to it.
Okay, so this one's going to be fun. Let me pull this up because this one's a good one. All right, so here we go. McDonald's. That
Wow.
would have been an easy one, except for having the source doc. You go, well, maybe they were traveling for a particular reason. So the source docs matter.
They do matter.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
that's
being
awesome.
able to figure out what's happening. Sometimes we need to be able to dig into those details and piece them out.
Definitely.
You know, the even in this kind of situation, I know one of my buds, what she does is she'll go through and she'll look at all the credit card accounts and receipts and start sorting those into one group, and another, maybe a debit card into another group, and so another credit card. And so going through some of those source docs, gosh, that's time consuming.
I think all of us, I'd love to hear in the chat how many of you have sat on the floor of an office playing basically was the equivalent of a card game by trying to match the last 4 digits on the card and then put them into chronological order before you can even start to work with them. Just put your hand up or say yes, because I'm pretty sure all of us have done that at some point in our careers. And
And you can't use a calculator. So it's like, you got to use like an Excel sheet, because what if you type one in wrong?
Exactly. And those, yeah. Yep.
And then how many times did you find that someone replaced their card or it was stolen, and then you had to try to match it to the parent card, or it was off, and then that card was stolen shortly after, and so the sequence got off again in the process? So like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
it's a nightmare trying to track
Or they
it.
spilled coffee on the receipt and it blurred the last 4 digits. So you're like, which one is it? And you had this pile over here that was just all the ones you couldn't actually read.
Or it's sun drenched, right? Like that's my
Yeah.
favorite, where it's like 95% half faded, except for the portion that was tucked under the car seat in one section. Yeah.
Or it's stuck together between two
Yeah.
pieces of gum. There's 2 stuck together and there's gum in the middle.
So
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Or it's just
Favorite.
been in the back pocket and there's just nothing
Right.
there anymore
Crumbled
because it's been
into, like,
heated up.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Tightwad. Yeah.
Yep. You're making
Yeah.
me want to say here's a
Oh.
cheers.
There is a cheers.
That's so awesome.
Yeah, I totally agree. So the real-time piece of it, like you said, Heather, spreading out all of the receipts on the floor is definitely not real time. So that's only useful for being able to say what happened in the past. It's not helpful for being able to say there's any control over that spending, that what was the categories that were spent throughout the year the most. So being able to look at that historical information just has very little value.
Well, and also to put the controls, the internal controls in for your business. I remember one of my very first clients had a case where there were cards for employees at a gas station, and the amount of theft that we uncovered by going and grabbing a Snickers and a Coke or a loaf of bread or 3 packs of cigarettes or a carton of cigarettes, so that's a big challenge for small businesses as well, is how do you control the spending? How do you, that's a big one too.
Well, I think to that too, one of the hardest parts about just standardized credit cards is the way you limit and put controls on are very static. You're limited by the amount, but you're only limited by one sort of framework or context with it, right? You can't put really deep controls in it. And if you try to put more context into what you're doing by putting it to your departments or to your locations or any of those kind of things, man, your spreadsheet now gets way more complex, way more convoluted. The data that you're trying to ask them for and working through things, and there's a really dirty word in apps that I don't like using that starts with an E that people like to share with other people, but that tries to track those things. And sometimes that goes down another road. I don't use it because it's messy, and I don't suggest it because it is, and it creates a lot of complication. I'm trying, but it's almost like months behind because no one wants to give you that information, and it just takes so long to go through that process. And I hate that piece because it's weeks or months or months to get that information back.
Here's where I think you're going with this. I think you're going into this situation where we're talking about, let's be proactive.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is that part where you're talking about those team member spending cards and the virtual cards. Those are super cool.
Love virtual cards.
Love them. Love them.
And does anybody want to share just a little bit of nugget about what the virtual cards are?
I personally love virtual cards. And here's why virtual cards are so amazing. It is a credit card that you create, that you spin up virtually. So it's just literally designated for that purpose, for one specific type of expense, if you so choose, or one specific budget or designated area, like one financial category or one specific vendor that you choose. And that's it. Like, how cool is that?
I agree. And I think the thing that's really awesome about that is, whenever you're putting your credit card out there into the global world, it's out there. And so being able to say, I can verify all of these expenses. Well, sometimes your card's out there so many different places that you start to wonder, am I still subscribed to that service over there? But what you were just talking about, these little virtual cards, you can have for just one type of account, or like you said, you can even get to just one particular vendor. So there's no harm in having multiple virtual cards.
Yeah. As a marketer, this is something that we use a ton, right? And I'm sure we'll hit on this some more, but there's tons of expenses that you make that you might even want to spin up a virtual card for a one-time expense, just because, like you were saying, Liz, people might try to hit up that expense in the future, even without your authorization, or they might, automatically opt you into an annual subscription, even if you only mean to do it one time. So it just really protects you and keeps you from getting hit up on those things and then having to dispute it. Makes it so much easier, especially if you spend a lot of money on, advertising on Google, Facebook, things like that. But I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about that later.
Well, and I just had this experience today. So, I do the bank feeds every single morning. That is like one of my favorite ways to start my morning, was with my coffee and my bank feeds. And I was going through my credit card this morning and I looked at an expense. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Salt Lake City. And so I have an expense that just hit today from a trip 2 weeks ago. And I was looking at it going, that's not me. Like, I didn't do that. So, it happens to all of us.
Crazy.
Sure does.
Now I'm going to have to go do the fun thing where I have to dispute it and then new card and all of that. So gross.
The other thing that I love about virtual cards is the fact that you can truly put caps on them too. Like, you can create that limit that associates with it to where, and I think this is one of the pieces that is so unique about virtual cards compared to just regular generic credit cards too, outside of giving just a total spend limit on someone's usage, is if you're, you say you're setting up your Comcast bill and your children decide, or whoever it is decides to ramp up a whole bunch of rentals of videos or whatever it is on it, it will flag it and stop it. The payment won't process on that charge because of it, which means you're of course going to get an email notifying you that, hey, your Comcast bill wasn't processed, so the payment didn't go through. And that way, if you're used to being that person who just has things automatically run through, you're going to get notified when something's outside of that threshold, which I think is just, again, wonderful from that standpoint of, hey, let's set some boundaries around what our spending should be and keep ourselves from allowing those things to go over. Now, especially when it comes to those reoccurring items that you're always consistently used to dealing with. And one of the things I love too within Divvy's function with it as well, and going down that road, is they also allow you to put some buffers in there, knowing that sometimes there's just going to be things that fluctuate. Having that ability to put a framework around a buffer of things, it just gives you more comfortability too, on knowing that there's just a little bit of ebb and flow, knowing that sometimes things are going to go over, and that's all right too.
Yeah. I love the idea, and we have several clients that are in the trades, and so they have teams that need to go to Home Depot or Lowe's or to get supplies for a job that they're working on, and so they need the ability to go there, but the client needs the control to make sure that they're buying what they're supposed to be buying, right, and that they're staying within the budget for that particular job. Especially right now, building supplies are in some cases 3 times what they were a year ago. So they really need to watch that to make sure their profitability is where they want it to be. And so that's one of the things I love about Divvy is you can do that, and it can limit where they shop. It can limit what they can buy, which is really nice. So you can get very granular. One of the fun ways that we use it in our firm is that once a month we have a fun meeting. We have team meetings all the time, but we have a fun team meeting where we play games or we just chat. And part of that meeting is everybody gets a Divvy virtual card to order from DoorDash or, to have food delivered for their lunch. And so that rolls over every month. So they get an allowance, and then each month it resets. So if they don't use it, they don't use it. And we have some team members that just make their own lunch and they don't use it. But it doesn't add to it. So like if they don't use it, like if it's $20 and they don't use it, it doesn't go up to 40 the next month. It just resets back to 20. So that helps us, but it also gives them, we don't have to worry about people submitting reimbursements. It's just easy. It's easy, and our employees really love it.
What I
Well,
love
and I like
about
that you talked about your firm being the example there, because I'm sure a lot of us here are the ones who want to test it out for ourselves. And so being able to use our teams as a playground for testing it is really, really great. And you're talking about the lunches. One of the things that we decided we wanted to use Divvy for was to be able to have team member cards for being able to do training or subscriptions. I didn't want to have to be the one who logged in every single time and even just do a Zoom to say, here's my credit card number. Now they're empowered to do it. And it was a great place to have a playground. Have us be that, test.
No, definitely. We do the exact same thing, Liz, for the training. For our team, they have a training budget and they can use it. They still have to go through an approval process as far as what the training is, but they know what their budget is. They know they can spend it. And we've used that in a couple of other different ways as well. So our marketing person, she has a budget. So she has a Divvy card where if she needs to go place a Google ad or a Facebook ad or something, that's the card, and she knows what she has to spend. I don't have to think about it. And I don't have to approve things every time she wants to do something. She knows what her budget is. She can just go do it.
That's, I think, the part that's the most empowering about Divvy and in that space, right? I mean, it's at least for me, and again, that context of, because you're setting the core corporate budgets, the core corporate framework, and I hate the word again, budget, it's expense management. It's really controlling that framework. You're doing it and you're creating that push down complex and space where you're actually giving people who are actually using the money on a regular basis the ability to choose to do that. And so you've already decided where the money is going to be spent. So why does that always have to be that person at the end that has that tight knit control on it? So you're giving and you're empowering them with the ability to do it and not have to worry and stress about those things that they want to do or need to do. And so I love that you guys are giving that controls to them individually. The DoorDash function, like sometimes food options aren't available in every area. So why do you have to have a corporate plan for every virtual organization? You don't. Just give them a corporate card that's virtual so they can order their $20 meal wherever they want to order it. That's fantastic. Like to be able to provide that solution.
What we were having was our community doesn't always like to ask. And so instead of asking for permission to go do something, they were just like, I don't want to. So we were having a missed opportunity because, they didn't want to speak up. So this, like you said, it's empowering to be able to have some spending limits, have some ability to go do things that are authorized. And it also encourages.
So I had a client that we just did a full AP review and expense review with them and met with every single one of their team members about just their total process. And they had used Divvy for actually almost a year and went through the whole kind of everything with them. And one of the big pieces that they brought up with us is that each of the employees all expressed the kind of the love they had for the organization, but also that they weren't sure how to go through that approval process to act, to acquire and ask for things individually.
Mhm.
And how to, to kind of go through that phase work. And so I asked the question at the end from the owner, how do you guys go through this? And they're like, honestly, we don't care. Like, we don't care. They're fine up to like $500 a year individually to like spend whatever they want. He said, well, why don't you just give them a budget for $500 a year then to spend whatever they want? He's like, yeah, let's do that. I literally don't ever want to get asked again what they like it to get approval. I just want to give them the money and let them choose what they want to buy with it. They want to buy an iPad versus pencils. I don't care. Let them choose, because it doesn't matter to me what they spend the money on. It's up to their discretion. Like, I trust my employees. And I was like, that's really empowering as a business owner to trust their employees with that kind of thought process around their individual needs as a work from home employee. And that requires a lot from both respects to be able to go down that road.
So,
Well, and the super win in there is that you're able to then, even though you're giving them permission to do it, even though you're empowering them, you can still see what they spent it on. So that's a huge win.
Well, and two things, like, right? You've set the limit. And so you know how it's going to be controlled all across the year. And then two, exactly, like, you now have the documentation and they know how to use the system holistically. So everything's going to be coming through that system throughout the whole year, because they're excited to use it, because they just got approval to use that money however which way they want throughout the whole year.
Yep.
I know we're going to raise the toast now, but I definitely am not going to let you leave today's episode, Dan, without you digging into what you just said a moment ago, which was you did an expense consultation engagement with the client. And I want to learn about that, because that's a service offering that's bringing revenue to your firm. And I think that's a big opportunity for us. So we'll raise a toast, but I definitely want to dig into that. I don't want to get that to get lost.
Wonderful. Love to.
Good point. So, I've been drinking my drink prematurely because it's really yummy, and I got to put Cool Whip in it. So that was really fun. So the option was to put coconut cream in there, half and half. I chose Cool Whip. It just was, it looked like it was fun. So we want to say thank you for having us be able to learn more about Divvy. And I think that this is a really great time to say, do you want me to pass the presenter role over to you so you can take us through Divvy? Or you want me to show the slides? What are you thinking there?
Ryan, that's up to you. So if you'd rather just share the slides, or we can have Liz move them through. But yeah, we got our drinks.
Give me
I had mine
permission.
pre-made, so we're good to go.
Yeah, I even went with the funnest glass I had in the house there. So it's one of those that makes the good ping sound when you touch it to anything.
We also had a couple of questions that I don't know if we want to hold them till the end or if you want to take them now.
Yeah, I've actually notated all of the questions, and it'll get right into that ability.
Fantastic.
Wanted to kind of show everyone what Divvy actually looks and feels like, because if you think about like the Marvel Genesis story, like the birth of Divvy, it actually came from more of a sense of our CEO ran a pizza shop, right? And you have multiple locations, and typically you employ, 16 to 17-year-olds, unlike most of us that employ accountants who have been through a, degree of schooling. So you can imagine, as he's handing over location 1 Amex card to 16-year-old, driving another hour down the road, handing over debit card to GM number 2, and then driving down the road further, handing out wife's credit card to employee number 3 at location number 3, right? And so a lot of your guys' businesses, they operate this way, because the only other way to do this is to get a personally guaranteed corporate business card that still is on you as the business owner. And it's why most people don't hand out their cards to all employees, because it's like, I trust my directors, I trust my managers, but my frontline, my warehouse guys, my, those staff, definitely not, right? And especially in hands of like Taylor, who could spend the world over on marketing twice, right? Twice around the world. It's like, Do I trust him with it? Can we live with, $100,000 of SEO, even though it'll bring in tons, but can we handle that type of marketing push? And so that really led to, how can we control it? But I know everything after we spend it. I have to pay the bill, right? I see the line by line notation, and sometimes it's in bank feeds from, Liz, like you talk about your bank hour of the morning, like it's where we go could reconnect those. We all look at those nowadays, but think line by line, we have to pay it, but oftentimes we can't stop it from happening. So Divvy has really come about, how can I pre-allocate? How can I plan? Because if you think about family budgeting, you can't break the piggy bank for more than it's worth, right? Bernstein Bears principle, right? Where we literally can't take out more. And the problem with most businesses is they live in this 30, 60, 90 days down the road, because people take so long to turn in their reports. And most of us that act as accountants or consultants, we're literally hounding Mr. Customer or Ms. Customer, be like, what did you spend 25 grand on 60 days ago? You have to let me know. I can't do my work until you do that. And so it's kind of interesting to note that that's where that idea came from. And then all of our accounting partners like Dan, Heather, and Liz, they literally ask for features and we've been able to build them. So I'm going to share my screen here. Let's get some thumbs up from the crowd if you guys can see all the way over to my iPhone. Can everyone see that? Great. So from Divvy's standpoint, we want to bring them into an area of comfort when they first log in. So what their credit limit is, how much they owe, what their rewards are, what they've spent on. Now, this is where Divvy gets very different, because obviously everyone has seen the breakout from their own personal credit card. Now, where it gets different is what they were talking about. How can we take care of our individual employees, and how can we delegate? So we create, and Dan, I don't use the word budget, I use the word bucket. I want to say, like, what bucket is over there? What team, what delegate, what delegation? So let's run into how we take care of our own employees at our accounting firms. And you'll see that we're big into reading here, but this could be computer, this could be apps, this could be whatever you want to spend on for your employees. And you'll notice on my iPhone, I only wear 4 hats. So I actually haven't been added to the book budget. But if I was, right now it would show 0. We've given Kayla and John the delegation or the permission to Divvy, where our name comes from, the approval to spend up to $1,000 in this area. So the nice thing is, it's really easy. It's instant approval. So for those of you who have used Venmo or anything like that, we could literally say to every employee, we could select all, and we could literally be like, okay, we're going to give you each $50 for this month, or maybe this month and every other month. Or you know what? We're going to be a little bit cranky and we're going to say you get $50 for the next 24 hours or the next day to spend your lunch on, right? And remember, these are all editable. These could be for whatever you need. Now, the nice thing is this smart card operates in a way that it won't let them spend over the allotment you give them. So now I've just mass updated every single member that's on just this team for their book stipend. And now it'll show up on their smart card and they'll have a different limit for the stipends there. Now, obviously we could have different rules for each team member in each area, because let's be honest, I trust Taylor a whole lot more than I'm going to allow Dan to spend, right? Because if he looks like me, I know how he spends and I spend a lot, right? So it's one of those things that now we have different rules and different regulations there. So as they're trying to assist there, you can now tell all of your clients, hey, I can promise you with Divvy, you will never go over budget again, because they simply cannot spend more than you, the finance team, and the C-suite go and allocate for these book stipends. Now, obviously, this is more a benefit. Let's talk about something that everybody has. And Taylor, we're going to need a ton of your help because you're one of our top spenders in the marketing area. So you can see here, I'm going to limit Taylor. And this is where accounting services can up level from baby bookkeeping, almost think babysitting. What was this charge for? What was this charge for? Now to more consultative approach. Customer, we can't spend more than 25K in marketing this month. Our cash flow can't handle it. So let's go ahead and adjust, and let's give ourselves a little bit of a help, maybe a buffer of $1,000, and that's our cap. And now we're going to give that to Chad and to Damon to oversee, and they can go ahead and edit these on the fly. So Taylor, for you, I know that, well, in this case, we'll just call you this Taylor here in the demo mode. But the nice thing is I could go and I could edit Taylor's access individually. And I could say, you know what? Let's go ahead and give him $14,000 to spend for just this month only. Give it that expiration. Or if I want to be more laissez-faire, right? I don't want to have to manage it that closely. All I could do is just say, you know what? Let's go ahead and give it to him this month, every other month. All right, Taylor, go for it. So now, Taylor, now that you have those funds, how do you usually go about setting up those virtual cards that you were mentioning, those campaigns that you buy, those SEO purchases that you make? Can you explain that to us? And I'll drive on the screen here.
Yeah, so it kind of depends. So first off, like let's say sometimes I work a lot with buying groups and associations. So let's say we have a partnership with a home builders association or something like that, and we have a one-time annual membership fee. Right now, this, let's say we're not sure, if it's worth this cost, but we're going to try it out for the first year. I don't want to give them a credit card there. They're going to re-hit up that next year. So I'm going to create what we're calling a burner credit card, right? And that virtual card means that it's going to be made for that one specific purchase so that in the future, they can't re-hit that back up, right? So it's going to only be valid for a certain amount of time. Then after that, it completely is invalid. If they don't, let's say they don't charge that card and that expiration date hits, that money doesn't leave my budget. It's going to go back on. I don't have to worry about having that on that card, right? So that's one scenario. Another scenario would be where I want to create a single virtual card for a single recurring expense. A good example of this is our Google Ads account, right? So I know I'm going to be spending roughly $100,000 every single month on Google Ads, and I don't want to go over that. And I need to make sure that I have that money, and that if there's any issue, I can always go to the very specific credit card. I'm not going to have to worry because, Dan went and used the corporate card to buy everyone lunch, and I didn't know about it, right? And so that way I can always make sure I'm not going to have my ads stop showing because we're too many people are on the same credit card. Now, one thing that Ryan kind of hit on that I want to reiterate is it's not just small businesses doing that kind of thing where, the wife's credit card is being used on for location 3 and for location 2, the debit card. I was at a 1,000-person, tech savvy company. And what we were using was my handwriting of my boss's credit card. I took a picture of it, and then we would share that picture of my handwriting. So it's not even just the original card or a picture of the original card. It's a picture of my handwriting of the numbers.
Like you crayoned it on a napkin style.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, a little bit better. I did use pen, but yeah, and that's how we paid for everything for a very long time. And there's a lot of ways that can go wrong, a lot of ways fraud can happen. So I just love that we can give all of my marketers their own card. They can make their spends they need, but we don't have to worry about that getting out there and becoming a potential issue for fraud.
Appreciate it. For all of you guys charging flat fees, I love the ability to pre-fill all of the transactions on the card. I know exactly what Google Ads is going to be every month. I'm going to put it in the right category, mark all of these custom fields that are coming from our two-way sync with QuickBooks or NetSuite or whatever you're using for your accounting software. And so on there, the funny thing that makes it this way is we already know what Google Ads is going to be, especially things like T-Mobile, Comcast, our internet bill, our Zoom license. There's no sense in coding those 12 times. And especially for things that like sales, they typically spend on these areas, we want to create an intelligent coding system. And so Divvy has gone a step further than just the pre-fill. We now say, look, we can sync over your GLs, your chart of accounts, and now we can add custom sets, or basically think intelligent coding and say, for these times, for these locations, I only want the following to show up. I want to have some default set up to speed it up. And then I want to include them in certain teams, certain areas at certain times for certain dollar thresholds. So think Mario and Luigi. They can only go down one pipe and pop out another, right? So you want to help these sales guys, these marketers who don't need to code in each other's backyards to only be able to see, say, 4 or 3 pick list options. It also allows us as the accountant to go and quickly speed through. If they get it wrong, well, hey, now there's like 2 other choices it could be. We can quickly go to it. So that's a great point. Now, let's talk about what happens when somebody doesn't have enough, right? So the nice thing about these being smart cards is you'll see that when I take my card out, I can literally tell it which pipeline it needs to go to. So remember the intelligent coding behind the scenes? Now I take out 1 card instead of 4 out of my pocket, and I can spend out of sales, or I can spend out of sales travel. Now, for all of you across the country, depending on where you're at, $8.51, it's going to buy you jack, right? And you're going to get nothing out of that. I mean, in Utah, maybe we can eat here, but in other places, nothing, right? Especially where you're at, Liz, like you can't go to anywhere and eat for $8.51.
Maybe a coffee?
Maybe.
A slice of coffee cake from Starbucks, maybe.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So you
Steak and
can't
shake burger.
Oh, yeah. You can't believe how many times we need to have these requests. Now, you mentioned audit proofing. How can we guarantee our firms have no problem with where we keep the receipts, where the charges are the true source documents? The requesting funds method is a fantastic auto proofing method, because now it's, hey, I need $200, boss. This is exactly what I'm spending it on. Will you give me the permission to spend up to, not the full charge? It's not gone. It's approval to spend up to a certain amount, which means that for some individuals, those that aren't the maverick type spender that Harvard talks about, but those who are the budgeter, they might only spend 100. And so now you have all of those requests tracked and audited, and you know exactly who requested it. And then at my firm, we like to use a whole bunch of fun language to come in and tell people no. So now this has been great because it literally pings your cell phone or your Apple Watch. You don't even have to open it, and you can come be like, sorry, Hannah, no way, no how, you're not going to get that. And you can add any colorful response that you want. Now, we've seen people use this all the time. Taylor's intern, we give him 0 and we make him go get donuts, and he has to request it literally in front of the clerk so that we can approve it right before he hands the card over. So Dan, I know that your team does this quite a bit. Do you have any stories to share with us about real-time approvals?
We definitely don't approve hazing, but I'm just kidding. But we definitely do. We love the approval function. That is a big part of it. I mean, I kind of echoing one of the comments that Heather was making earlier about construction. We work with a client of ours that has a heavy construction presence, and they're constantly doing changes with it and requesting changes with it, just due to the fact that lumber prices is constantly changing and material prices are constantly changing all of the time. And so when you have an allocation at the beginning of a project that you assume what you thought the project was going to be for, you have no clue what it's going to be the moment that they get there. And so that instant change or request is crucial for us to be able to do that and as an accountant, be aware of, oh, wow, okay, lumber prices doubled a lot from yesterday when we were discussing this before you guys were going out to buy. Cool, great, boom. And then it's not this back and forth. They can, while they are there at Home Depot, at whatever place they're getting it, still buy it without any problems and complications. And we know they can still get it. It's now becomes a full circle piece without having a full PO requisition process and 10,000 extra steps and 3 more trips and all that extra stuff. So it makes it so much easier. And the same thing also from just the marketing spend standpoint too, where it's that kind of mindset of ask for forgiveness later type space. This controls that because it puts it in that framework of we don't do expense reimbursements.
Right.
We use company credit cards, which help us to be able to control how we do this as an organization and keep us within budget. Because one of the things I talked about that client before that gave away, that's giving their, $500 per employee. They are actually doing this also too, where whatever profits that they make as an organization from each of their projects, they divide it up between each department on what they saved on their budgets. And so over that budget, over what they originally allocated. And so that's one of the things too, of where you win in that same space, they can create incentive for their teams to continue to grow with it too. So it's that just type of motivation that becomes really cool on usage and connection and requests and features there too.
You bet.
That's
and I'll riff
cool
off
about thinking
that.
about the motivation with the cards. So that's an interesting point and a great way to spin it. I think we have some questions, right, Heather? Go ahead.
I think we do have some questions, and I also would love to launch the poll because we're just about 6 minutes out, and I want to make sure that everybody has the opportunity to express their interest. So I'm going to go ahead and launch our poll.
And I'm going to stop the sharing for a second, so that way, there we go. So I think Taylor, let me come down here and let me pull up the end.
I was just going to mention this while the poll is up. Heather, you asked a question about different projects or services and things like that we offer because of our partnership with Divvy and the things that we connect with it. Being that we love Divvy, one of the biggest parts for us is we love being a part of that setup phase that helps clients to interact with it, partially because we love that connection of helping them to understand that value that's created with it in their organization. We know them a lot of times more than and better than they know themselves in what's happening organizationally. The business owners oftentimes really know what's happening in their world, in their little bucket, but they don't know the whole world. And so when we get to have that conversation about here's who we need to talk to about these types of expenses and getting them on virtual cards, we get to be a part of that journey with them, but also we get to help them set up expense management relationships where we get to do reviews and follow-ups and comparisons with this and also help them to create really better visualizations as to what's happening with their worlds outside of just putting expenses in. And I think that's one of the big pieces with this that really changes the relationship from an advisory standpoint for us with our clients is this isn't just a transactional review tool. This is an opportunity for us to really change the value add function that we provide to our clients. And we do it sometimes on a quarterly basis, sometimes semi-annually, sometimes annually, where the clients are actually taking that deep dive into their worlds and fully understanding how they're spending and where their spending is, and do they need to have it based off of each of the different separate divisions within the organization and how each individual person is, and what areas do they need to cut back in or spend more in. And really changing their spending habits has really created a huge development in some of our clients' lives that has saved tens of thousands of dollars in some cases, and also has created huge opportunities for them to invest into other great things to help them grow too, which has been really awesome.
Well, and I think that with all of that said, because those are all great points, I think Taylor wants to point out the cost.
Yeah, so I did start sharing my screen, right? Is the thing I love about working Divvy the most is I don't ever have to ask anyone.
No,
right?
It looks like the Rocky Horror lips. Yes.
It
There
does
we go.
look like
I
that.
wanted to make sure I pulled up those lips for you, Liz. But yeah, it's Divvy is completely free. The way we make money is just the same way any other credit card can make money, is just we make money by the people using the product the best way possible, right? And so that's why we care so much that it's so easy to use, is because that's how we benefit, right? Is by them benefiting. And I just wanted to point out real quick, the partner program we have for your firm is that it's awesome because you can actually earn revenue sharing this with your clients on a free product, right? So it's something that's super helpful for them. There's no commitment, there's no contracts or anything like that. We'd love to make you a partner. If you're interested, go to getdivvy.com/partners, or just check out the website and we'll make sure we get you to somebody like Ryan who can help set you up, and you can be like any of these fine folks on this presentation we have today. But that's all I'll say about that, because I know we're super short on time. So I wanted to let everyone, have the time to answer some of those questions we had on. But thanks for having us on, guys.
I appreciate that. I'm going to start sharing my screen, and I'm going to say, we appreciate you being here. We always like to share good technology with our peers. And so with that being said, one of the things that we thought was a cool thing that just happened this week is that there was the announcement of Greenback and Dex merger. And so if you haven't checked out Dex, they are an importing tool for sales channels on e-commerce. So they do some stuff, and we thought that merger was a pretty cool thing. So wanted to shout that out for especially those e-commerce people. We also want to say thank you to everyone for being here. You can visit our website for more information about past videos, and you can also go check out YouTube. We have Facebook Live that we're always, doing stuff with Facebook. So all of you that are in Facebook land, come join us in Zoom land, because we have a chat going on and we have a Q&A going on. So if you're over there, over here's where the party is. And then here's our upcoming episodes that are coming up. So there's the Dex, and then Quivinci is going to come on. They haven't been on in 2 years. And so they want to show us all of the updates that have been made, and then Recur 360, and then scaling.
We have a special episode that's not even on your slide yet that's going to be coming up in September.
Oh.
Are we going to talk about it, or are we going to keep it under the vault?
It's 4 o'clock right now. Let's say it.
Okay. I'm very excited.
Kind of like
Yeah. So and I think it's September 16th. It just happened. And we're so excited. But Joe Woodard's going to come on Happy Hour. So for a whole hour, and we're going to be talking about all of the different apps and technology sponsors that are going to be at Scaling New Heights. You're going to get a special sneak peek, and we're really, really, really excited about it. So we're actually going to be doing that from Florida, which will be really fun too. So it should be a really fun live. We'll be together, a really fun live episode. So I hope you'll join us in letting everybody know to show up for that one and celebrate with us. So.
And we'll be together live, not like live like this, but you and I are going to be live in person.
Yeah, we'll be standing next to each other. Yeah.
Yeah, like what?
I know.
I can't wait. I can't wait. I feel like I haven't traveled out of my bubble enough the last 18 months. So it's going to be really fun to see a real human and hug you.
Absolutely.
My dear friend.
Well, this was fantastic. Thank you so much to all of you for this. I love Divvy. I think the other thing that I just love about it, and I want to kind of just my parting words with this is, I love the idea that you've taken something that could be considered kind of a uncomfortable topic in a business and made it empowering, right? So you've empowered the business owner and, the leadership team to get a handle on that expense management, but you've also, empowered the team that's actually making the purchases and given them that autonomy to go out and make decisions on their own, which is really such a great team builder and culture awesome component. So I love that.
I think you're right. I mean, it removes the friction that oftentimes you find within an organization where there's a lack of trust or there's a lack of confidence in people's abilities, and you're empowering them to make decisions that they're capable of doing or they're already doing already. And the other thing too is with the way that Divvy just works holistically, you're giving them the ability to be able to do it in their worlds automatically and live, so that it's not slowing down their productivity. It's not slowing down their ability just to maintain their regular work schedules, which is what I love even more about it, and not having to make them second guess or wait for something. And so it just helps things move more effectively and more efficiently, and both having virtual cards and the debit card, the full physical card, just makes it so much easier holistically. So I love it. My customers love it. And we're really excited for just use of it all, pushing it more and more across the board.
Yeah. And one of the things I just want to point out one more time, I know we said it earlier, is that there's this credit line that's happening. It's not just a prepaid bank account, it's a credit line. And so that's pretty unique. And that's something that a lot of our clients would benefit from, being able to have that kind of access to funds.
And I think one thing we didn't mention, I think I saw it on one of the slides, but I don't think it was like called out, is there is rewards. So if you have clients that, are worried about that they get the rewards, they're going to get rewards with Divvy too, which is great. So, yeah.
Great point.
My comment to only add a comment to that is your rewards change depending on how quickly you pay it off, right?
Right.
So you get to control how much you can improve that. So people always ask about rewards.
Yes, they love that.
Yeah, we love to incentivize good behavior. Think Ramsey principles, don't get in trouble, don't go into the ground. The entire principle behind Divvy is like, stay in business. Because if us as accounting software, we keep people in business, then they'll always be your client, right? And as you make them happy, you help them see what the areas they're having trouble spending in. Now you're the true consultant. And we've really seen you guys riff off of that. Dan, I know you guys dive into that, really help. And it's a fun engagement that the customer is happy to pay for your time as well.
Yeah, definitely. All right, everybody. Well, we have reached the end. It's been really fun. This has been a great episode. So thank you so much for coming on and hanging out with us. Thanks to all of you that attended. And if you requested to have Divvy reach out to you, I will be sending that information along to them a little bit later. All right. Bye, everybody.
Everyone.
Bye.